Hi, everybody. Gosh, I haven't been live for a while. I am doing a conversation with David Foster, who's an incredibly talented guy. And I'm sitting on my bed because my phone was out of juice. And I'm super excited to have you guys join because David is, first of all, he's one of my favorite people. He's ridiculously talented. And there's a new documentary out on Netflix about him. So the nice people at Netflix and David, I'm going to see if I can put this up here, asked me if I would have a conversation with him about this new documentary. Is that a really weird angle, you guys? So, oh, here he is. Here, let me find him. There he is. Him. Let's see. Waiting for David Foster. Anyway,
Hey,
hi,
I don't want to
David.
interrupt your glowing introduction to me, but
Of course you don't. Listen, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. I met a friend for a drink and he was very late and I ran home and my phone was out of juice. And so here I am and
I have
super
my
hi.
phones
First of
plugged in
all,
too.
oh good. David, first of all, I love the documentary so much.
Oh, thanks, Katie. Well, you and I have known each other a long time, and you know all the warts and all where all the bodies are buried, pretty much.
Not really. I mean, honestly, David, I learned a lot about you through this documentary. We've been friends, but there was a lot that I didn't know about you. So I thought we could, oh, my friend Adriana is there. Hi, Adriana. We'd start by talking a little bit about some of the things that are in the documentary. I want people to be able to ask questions if they're watching, but um, you know people, but you don't really know them. And one of the things I didn't realize, David, is that you had six sisters growing up. And one of your sisters sadly passed away. So now you have five sisters. But that your mom, it sounds like you were treated like quite the prince. And that, I think, explains some of the,
A lot.
how shall I say it, David, issues that you might have today. I thought there was one very telling line in the documentary. You said every morning that your mom fixed your sister's toast and you got bacon and eggs. What the hell was that about?
I
And
have no
by the way,
idea,
the
but
documentary, everybody's called Off the Record, David Foster Off the Record. Get it?
on Netflix, which is so cool. But
Yes.
I don't know what that was about, Katie, honestly, because when you're 9 or 8 or 10 or whatever, you don't think about it. It's just like, there's my bacon and eggs. She wakes me up and then go to the table and there's bacon and eggs and toast and orange juice. And it's like, okay. And then I learned, of course, years later that my sister was like, what? We never got that.
Well, didn't you kind of think, weren't you a little embarrassed at the time thinking you were being treated one way and your sister's being treated totally differently?
No, in fact, they probably didn't deserve bacon and eggs. No,
I'm
I
sure.
was a fairly unaware child, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I felt like your mom, obviously, as the only boy in this big family, you were worshipped and coddled and treated a certain way. And in addition to that, I love the fact that when your mom was cleaning the piano, I don't want to give everything away in the documentary because I want people to watch it because it's so much fun. That when she was cleaning the keyboard, you said, "That's an E." Is that
Right. She was
right?
like, Dusty.
Oh, you're right. You're right in front of the piano.
Yeah. There's a bit of a disclaimer there, though, because at 3, I wasn't taking piano lessons. So there's no way I could have known it was an E. So the story was always told to me that I was 3 and she called my dad and he had to come home because he was the musical one. But I must have been 5 and already taking lessons. Otherwise, there'd be no way that I would know a note. But once I started taking lessons, I think that would be acceptable to know that I had perfect pitch. So
You had perfect pitch. Was anybody else, were the girls, your sisters, anybody else musical in your family?
they didn't develop it, but my sister Mary Lou has perfect pitch as well, weirdly.
Ah, how do you know when you have perfect pitch, David?
Well, you have to have a baseline. So you would be able to know if you had it or not because you play piano. So you know the difference. So
Yeah.
if I hit this note, do you have any idea what note that is?
Oh, my husband just walked in. I'm
Hey,
going to
John.
say G.
Okay, well, it's an A.
I'm going to say G.
It's an A.
Oh, it was an
But
A.
when you have perfect pitch,
So obviously
you
I
never
don't have
miss.
perfect pitch.
Sorry?
No. Yeah, I don't have perfect pitch. So I could play anything on the piano and you could tell me what note it was.
Yeah, but strangely, in the last decade, my perfect pitch has failed me, and I'm not
Really?
100%. So it's, I don't want to labor this point, but it's like if somebody said, this is yellow, your whole life, this pencil is yellow, you know it's yellow, they know it's yellow. And then all of a sudden, a decade ago, that's blue, that pencil. No, it's yellow. I see yellow. So that's kind of what losing your perfect pitch is.
So is it a bummer for you to lose it, or are you okay with
Total
it?
bummer. It was always a blessing and a curse.
Is it?
But it's a total bummer to be that confused and to hear a chord and not know what it is.
You obviously are Canadian. You have a lot of Canadian fans, but you also have fans all over the country and in this country as well. And your dad died quite young. You talk about that in the documentary, David, how he asked you if you wanted to make music your career, and then he left, and that you told him yes, and that was the last time you saw him. How old was he when he passed away?
He was 54. It wasn't the last time I saw him, but it was the only time I had an adult conversation with him where he wasn't scolding me. He was talking to me adult to adult. And then about 3 months after that, he passed away. But we never had another adult conversation, only that one time. And it was great. And I cherish it, obviously.
He was musical as well, right?
He was. He taught me how to play this kind of music because he did it really well. Ballroom stride piano. He was really good at it.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, or was it all distorted?
And so, I don't know. I heard it kind of. I thought it was maybe ragtime, kind of.
It's ragtime. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you go good. Well, you can play. People are asking, "Where's Kat? Where is she right now?"
She's in the other room. I don't know if I could coerce her, but I might be able to coerce her in. Can I use your incredible platform for 1 second? May I? Well, I'm going to anyway.
Yeah.
I love your newsletter. I mean, I'm addicted to your newsletter. It's like, well, I've told you that before.
Thank you, David.
And you guys do great. And now Molnar's in the act with his, he just couldn't help himself. He just had to
I know. What can I say? I've created a monster, David.
Incredible.
You know how it is.
I do. This documentary that came out today on Netflix is a great work by Barry Average, the director, and I let him make the documentary. I did not interfere. I did not suggest. I only suggested 2 things. I said, please put the Ben Vereen story in and talk to Chicago because they don't like me. And that'll be
wow. And those were two incredible stories. First of all, Barry did a great job. I'm going to be chatting with him in a moment after you and I have this conversation. But I find it hard to believe.
Sorry, Katie, just to finish my thought, because I talked in the documentary about 2 people that were very close to me, and really helped me make a lot of these records. One is an arranger named William Ross, who's a great composer in his own right and really took my arrangements to orchestra and made everything sound beautiful. And also a man named Umberto Gatica, who is a great producer and was my engineer and then later became a co-producer with me. And he went on to win many Grammys after me. And both of them were really pivotal in my career. And I did talk about them, but it got cut out of the documentary. And I pushed a little bit to get it back in, but to no avail. So I now get to use your platform to say thank you, Umberto Gatica, and thank you, William Ross, for all your contributions to my music. It wouldn't have worked out the same without you guys. Thanks.
Well, that's a shame that he took that out. David, I find it hard to believe that you didn't have a lot of control over the content of this documentary. You didn't have any say?
Zero. Because, Katie, I've seen documentaries where the subject has control and it just becomes bull. It's like, and then I wrote, and then I did. And, there is plenty of that in here. But there's also the tough parts, the squirmy parts with my kids. And it would have been so easy to say, Barry, that when Amy says that about me, just take it out. But once you start chipping away, then I'm chipping away at his work. And then where do you stop? You just start going on and on. And that comes out, and that should go on. So I just had no say in anything.
Well, let's talk about a few of the warts that are exposed in this documentary, David. First of all, it's just extraordinary, the people you've worked with. It's so fun seeing you work. By the way, the footage is amazing. How did you have so much archival footage?
I don't know. I mean, we filmed a lot of stuff in the studio, and then Barry took it and cleaned it up. I mean, that stuff with Kenny Loggins and Celine Dion, when I told Kenny Loggins, like, I've got this girl that can sing the demo for her. And she's like, well, let me hear her. And we're all in the studio together. And he goes, that's her? She doesn't even speak English. Or he wasn't being mean, but he's like, are you sure she can sing? Yeah, I'm sure she can sing. And then she opens her mouth and Kenny's like on the floor. And we had that on camera.
How did you decide to get Celine, by the way? Isn't that an Eric Carmen song? Can't live if living is without you. That was her first big hit. And you asked her to do this impossible note. And she did it perfectly the first time. You asked her to do it, I guess, 7 or 8 more times. How did you pick that song for her, David?
I think her team picked it, and I think it wasn't my choice. She had a great team that was always looking for songs for her. But the minute they said that song all by myself, I was like, yes, I know exactly what to do with this. And then I made that great twist, and I'll say great, but I made that twist in the end where she goes into the stratosphere.
With the keychain? With the key change, are you talking
The
about?
key change, yeah. Yeah, my notoriously...
I mean, it was beautiful and awesome to see her talking about it. And she was so great. I'm sorry, I'm putting my phone against I'm going to put it against his.
Oh, because you have the charger.
There you go.
Right?
All right. So, by the way, I got my second shingle shot, and my husband was like, "That's really hot."
Molnar.
Well,
you said you were like, you had a crush on you.
oh, I told him that you had a little crush on
That
me
is
at one
absolutely
point,
true.
and he said,
Hey,
"Give
John.
me a break," and
That's
I said, "No."
absolutely true.
Did.
Yeah. But
Hey,
John, we never acted on it.
I really liked the film. It was
Thanks,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, we didn't, but he did come up to my house. You came to my apartment and you played
I
my
did, but
piano.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
It was, it was like 2 or 3 years ago.
That was it. Anyway, all right.
All right.
You can ask David any questions if you want.
I just want to say big fan.
John.
Loved it.
Yeah, John and I stayed
Really
up
loved it.
to midnight watching this
Wow.
documentary, and we just thought it was so fun. But we were talking about some of the not so flattering things about David in it, because you are an egomaniac. You're a self-admitted egomaniac, and we were trying to figure out if you're a narcissist or just an egomaniac.
No, I'm not
What do
a
you think?
narcissist. I mean, I know I could have become one, but I'm not one. And I know the difference because I've worked with enough of them.
But you saw
I
all
don't think
those
he's a
things.
narcissist either.
And
Because he was so loved. Narcissists usually are trying to fill this empty void.
I would just love it because I thought you were working with such incredibly talented people, and they saw your talent and they got out of your way, and they said, "Do your thing." And I thought, man, if you could apply that to any business, if you could have people that talented, the people that have gravitated to David and basically accept him and say, you know what, lead me to the end zone.
But I also
Yeah,
think
I
that-
loved it.
think-
I loved it.
You're so
okay,
mean.
love it. Bye. I also think that so incredible at recognizing talent. You know, what is it? Obviously, Michael Bublé, Celine, you heard about. You know, so many people. Well, Whitney was really an established star when you kind of did her huge moment with Clive, and you give credit to Clive for the acapella for "I Will Always Love You." But Josh Groban. Yeah, I mean, how are you able to recognize and I think work with this incredible talent to make the very best of them come
Well,
out?
I would say, first of all, I haven't discovered that many new talents. I mean, you just really mentioned all three of them. Throw in the chorus from Ireland. But again, with Celine, who I didn't discover, she was already a star in Quebec. But Celine and Bublé and Groban, to bring up Umberto Butica's name again, he was right beside me. He was like encouraging me. He said, "You've got to go see this girl, Celine. She's amazing." We had heard one song. So he encouraged me with him and with Groban, because you doubt yourself. So it was always good to have somebody to bounce off of. But when I heard Celine, it was like, millions of people are going to love this. I mean, I don't think it makes me an elitist. I think it makes me the common man. Because if I was an elitist, I'd be signing jazz musicians, which there's nothing wrong with that. But they say jazz musicians, they play 1,000 notes to 3 people, and pop musicians play 3 notes to 1,000 people.
And I think it's sort of one of the things the documentary I think pointed out is there's something about you have this uncanny knack for producing and for arranging and for making songs so beautiful and have kind of an emotional connection, honestly, I think, to the people who are there and listening and taking the music in. And where do you think you get that from? Just years of playing, years of working with talented musicians?
Whatever my influences were in my life, classical and then the Beatles, and it all makes up who you are and who you want to be musically. But when I lay my hands on the piano, what comes out is soft. It's just soft and romantic. I wish I could make Van Halen music. I wish I could make music with Drake. I mean, I love those guys. But that's not what I gravitate. When I put my hands on the piano, it's just, it's pretty. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. You, let's talk about some of the things that made you uncomfortable in the documentary, because, you know, I really appreciated it because you were vulnerable and revealing, and you could talk about some of the issues that you've had through the years. And one of them is you talked about sort of your difficulties in relationships. You said you're a runner. And when the going gets tough, David Foster basically gets going and gets the hell out of Dodge. And, you know, I'm curious. I know that therapy is sort of not your thing, but have you been able, with, especially with someone who's as loving and patient as your wife, Catherine McPhee, have you been able to get any insight into why you behaved certain ways in the past, and what caused you to do these things? Someone just wrote, "Run,
Yeah.
David, run."
Oh, that's funny. The way I explain it, and it's not a great explanation, and it doesn't make me look good, but I think I did not have a great respect for the sanctity of marriage. And that's an awful thing to say.
Your parents were happily
Mm-hmm.
married,
All my
right?
sisters, one husband. All my daughters, one husband, with the exception of one of them. So thank God they didn't follow in my footsteps. And again, I probably wouldn't change anything. You know, people say that like it's all part of who I am. But you know, there's a few regrets there. And of course, the documentary does delve into that more than I wanted it to. But again, I was at Barry's mercy.
What I thought was also interesting, you have these incredible kids. John was drooling over all your daughters because they are all so incredibly beautiful.
Thank you.
And while I think you weren't necessarily the most present father, they seem to really, truly adore you and accept you for who you
Which is
are.
to their great credit, more so than mine. Although, you know, I used to say, Katie, that, you know, people would come to me and say, I'd say, how are your kids? And, oh, well, you know, Johnny's in rehab and Dick got a DUI, but, you know, they're coming through it and they're going to be fine when they're adults. And I would just say, well, yeah, I got lucky. But actually, I didn't get lucky. I mean, in some way, I did the work, along with their mothers, of course. But in some way, I really did the work. And my kids have never had a DUI. They've never had they don't do drugs. They don't really drink. They don't, you know, they're all working hard, making their own living. And so I think I did a few things right, even though, you know, I worked day and night and didn't live with my kids. That's the hard part. You know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I thought they were all so, you know, I thought their participation was so great and meaningful and helpful in terms of giving people a bit of a window into who you are and what you were like as they grew up. I mean, it just was so well done. And I don't want to give too much away with the Ben Vereen story, but I could not believe, David, how did I not know that story?
Well, it was a long time ago, Katie. You were a baby. So why would you? But yeah, you know, I smacked him right in the middle of the highway. He was standing in the middle of the road at 2:30 in the morning, and it wasn't my fault, but wasn't really his fault either. And it's just something that happened. And the great thing is that 3 months after it happened, he phoned me up, and I was so happy to hear from him. And he goes, David Foster, that was one of your greatest hits ever. And that was just like, oh, thank God I can relax now.
I know, funny. But, and we won't give too much away because I want people to watch the documentary. But ultimately, without giving too much away, you ended up saving his life by having that happen. And we'll let people watch for the backstory. But he was having some medical issues that would never have been revealed had he not been in this horrific accident.
He would have been dead by 7 a.m.
All right. Yeah, let's talk about. Oh, go get Kat. We'll get her in a second. Everybody,
Let me
calm down. We'll get
let me
Catherine.
go away for a second because she'll
This
need
is
a
our
minute
time. This
if
is
she's going to
David.
come on. So hang on. Okay.
Okay, go tell her to get herself together, and I'll just be left here, just basically saying hi to everybody. Look up Miss USA Texas. Okay,
She has no makeup on.
you did a great job,
She's
Mr.
really being a trooper
Foster.
because she has no makeup on.
Hi, you look beautiful.
Oh,
You
you
don't
just
need
showered, huh?
makeup.
I
Are
just
you?
showered.
How are
okay.
you?
How are you?
You I'm good. Kat, I was saying, okay, it's called Off the Record, everybody. It's on Netflix. It's really the story of David's life. You know, I'm such a fan, as you know, that I went to see David's Broadway show where he talked about his career. And I think I probably even said this would be a great documentary. Oh, where can you see it in the UK?
I don't think you can right
I
now.
don't think
Can you
I
see
guess
it in
it's
the
not
UK?
available yet on.
We're not that. I'm not that popular, right? I don't have any juice, you know. But
No.
it'll get there eventually.
Can people see it in
Well, it
Canada?
was on network TV in Canada for a couple of months, so if they missed that window, I don't think it's on anymore. But hopefully, it'll come around again because it's made by Bell Media, Randy Lennox, Jeffrey Latimer, and of course Barry Average. So it's a Canadian production.
You know what's so fun about it, Kat, is it's fun. First of all, I loved your part in it, Kat. And as I said to David, you're the most loving, patient person to put up with him because, you know, first of all, and I'm saying that because I love David, but he's a handful. And it seems to me that you know, you don't let him get away with it. You really force him to kind of deal with stuff in a way that honestly, I don't think I would have the patience to do. Where do you get that? And how are you able? Because I thought it was actually a beautiful love story that that you're able to kind of help David deal with some of the issues that might have previously made him run.
I think that probably just comes from my own childhood of like dealing with my own personal issues of how I needed to learn how to express myself to whoever it may be, you know, whether it was family or friends. And so I went on my own journey. And his girls did an interview with People. It's on people.com. It's really today.
It's so funny.
They did a cute photo shoot to promote his documentary, and it's really funny if you guys want to go on. The girls are hysterical.
This is what they said really quickly. They said, well, you know, we love Kat, we get along with her so well, but we hate it when she comes over for Sunday, you know, because all of our husbands are going like, hey, Kat, get in the pool. And we just hate it because like she's just so hot. She's just too hot.
They're such comedians.
Yeah.
Oh, well, come on. Are you kidding? Aaron and Sarah are absolutely drop dead gorgeous. I mean, all of you. It's ridiculous. I don't know what's going on with your gene pool, David, but
that's what
holy
I was
moly.
say, that it's hysterical coming from them because they're all like just such gorgeous girls.
And Jordan says even her 2-year-old son's like, yeah, Kat, get in the pool.
That's what makes them good comedians, you know, because they gave a great interview and it was really fun. But what was I was just talking about my own
your journey as a kid and your volcano.
I just think that our generation
you're talking about how
our generation is maybe a little bit different, and like, you know, the word therapy is not, it's so taboo, and you know, like I think that those things have helped me in my life, and so I know they helped me in my past relationships with my family, and so
like when we were in New York when she was doing waitress, it's like, oh, guess what time it is? It's Thursday morning. Time to go to therapy. I said, what? I'm not going to therapy. Oh, yes, you are. Yeah. Ugh, I hate it.
He actually does like it, sort of, though.
Well, ish. Yeah.
Are you starting to learn a lot about yourself at this point? Because I know that's something that you just weren't interested in.
I always said I don't want to dig too deep for fear of what I might find. And I really don't want to dig deep.
He really doesn't want to dig deep, but he doesn't have any choice. So
yeah, she kind of makes me. I think you can go now.
I'm going to go now. So we're going to go for another family day. We're going to watch his.
Are you going to swim?
No, we're gonna go to Aaron's house because we're all going to watch the screening. I'm ordering food and everything, so it's going to be fun.
Good.
Oh, that's so fun. Well, Kat, thank you for coming by and saying hi.
So
Big kiss to you.
She's geographically desirable.
Okay, bye. All right. I want to, before we go, David, I just want to talk about all the artists because, as I said, it's like watching the greatest hits of the last. Oh, someone asked if you're going to have any more kids. Do I dare ask you
It's
that?
not in the plan at the moment, but I would never say never. You know.
Okay. Okay. All right. Um, so real quickly, let's just do a quick thing about some of the folks
Okay.
in the movie. You talked about Celine, who was how old when you
I
met
think she
her?
was 19, and she's what, 54 now, 52. So a long time ago.
Yeah. And I saw she came to the Today Show, David. I was thinking about this. She was just a little wisp of a girl. And it's when she sang Beauty and the Beast with, I think, Peebo
Beautiful
Bryson,
song,
right?
yeah. Beautiful song.
And I thought, wow, she is
Yeah, she
amazing.
is a force. Like one of my top three favorite singers of all time. Andrea Bocelli would be on that list too. I don't know who the third one would be. Maybe Natalie Cole. Maybe Whitney.
Well, there's a lot. You had, well, we'll talk about Whitney in a second, but Barbara Streisand, obviously, you have a unique
I
relationship
talked
with
to her
her.
today on the phone actually because I just called to thank her uh, for doing my documentary because she doesn't do much of that stuff, as you well know.
Oh, sorry.
And
Mark says it's on Netflix in the UK now.
oh, it's on Netflix in the UK now. Mark says. Mark Johnson is my manager, does an amazing job,
It's
and
on
he is one of
Netflix.
the producers on this show. I forgot to mention him when I was mentioning Barry and Randy and Jeffrey. So Mark Johnson, great, great guy. What were you saying? What
Okay.
was I saying?
Oh, yeah, I love. You were talking about
Yeah,
Barbara Streisand, how she doesn't do many interviews. So you were talking to her today, and you were
yeah.
thanking her
And she said,
for
"Oh,
participating in the
did you use the
documentary.
part about in the 70s when you were my piano player?" And I came over to the piano and I said, "What's that, kid?" And yeah, I said, "Yes, we told that story. I told it and you told it." And Barry beautifully put the two stories together. And thankfully, we both told the truth. There was no lying that we had to do because it really was a true story of how the song ended up just being me on piano and her singing. It was great, and it's a cherished moment.
And but you used a synth. It was for somewhere. Can you believe how much I paid
You
attention to this
did.
documentary? And used a synthesizer. So so it was a very cool kind of otherworldly sound that you achieved with
Yeah,
that.
she said that she didn't want it to sound like it was made on this earth. And she said, I don't want any orchestra. I want it just to be synthesizers. So we spent 1 month making that with 7 different programmers and Umberto again, and created this thing that I think does sound kind of outer worldly for considering it was 1985. That's 35 years ago, right?
Yeah. Someone just said your chord progressions. Whoa. That's
I
musician
agree.
talk. All right, let's talk about some of the other people. And you guys, if you want David to talk about some of the other folks that he's worked with. Oh, someone just said, and this was my next question, Whitney did the best work with you. So do you want to talk for a minute about the extraordinary Whitney Houston? And I don't know, I always feel so sad when I think about Whitney and what a troubled life she had and how she was gone way too
She
soon.
wasn't. She was one of the artists that I never got close to, not for any reason other than that's the way it goes, at least half the time, if not more. But she was always great with me, and I said
Hmm.
this before, but it's worthy of saying again. I don't think The Bodyguard is necessarily her best album. She made so many great albums after that. I mean, before that. But I believe that I caught her at her finest moment vocally, mature wise. I think I got the best vocals out of her from anybody.
But it was interesting. I'm walking to another part of my house because people are saying my audio is kind of off, and I don't want to. Is it sounded off to you, David?
There's a delay in your mouth and your sound, but
Hey,
that's okay.
John, will you turn the? Oh, I'm just going to do this in here because my audio's been kind of off in the bedroom.
Well, what
Can
else
we?
has been off
Can
in the
I turn
bedroom?
that off for a sec? John's watching
What else has
tennis.
been off in the bedroom?
Huh? Nothing, big boy.
Okay.
can I just talk to David a little bit more here? Let me turn the light on. Anyway, I should do it at my piano. We could do a duet, but I don't think that works on Instagram Live.
No, it doesn't.
But anyway, so I wanted to mention that Clive Davis really takes credit for the a cappella part of I Will Always Love You, the Dolly Parton song, which of course was huge.
Mm-hmm. I don't know where that idea came from. I don't know if it came from Clive.
Can you hear me?
Whether it came from Clive or from Kevin Costner. All I know is that I didn't like the idea. And like when I told Celine Dion not to record the Titanic, I couldn't have been more wrong. I said it'll ruin your career. I told Whitney not to sing a cappella. When you're wrong, you got to be wrong big, because then you can be right big. And once I heard her do it a cappella, I couldn't imagine the song any other way. It was breathtaking. So they were right. I was wrong.
And let's talk about a couple of other people. I don't want to keep you too long because I really do want people to watch the documentary so they can really enjoy it. Oh, it did come from Kevin Costner. He found the Dolly Parton song, right? For Bodyguard.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, when I heard that song, I knew exactly what to do with it. I heard the entire record in my head in real time. The big boom, the key change, the subtle part, the sax solo, the ending, the pause. I just didn't hear the a cappella part.
And why are those key changes so incredibly effective when it comes to these songs? Because I feel like that's a bit of your trademark, no?
Yeah, I mean, every song that I've ever done, to my knowledge, I try to put a moment in it, like All By Myself, like I Will Always Love You, like Because You Love Me with the choir, like Josh Groban, the choir, the key change, and You Raise Me Up. I try to put in a moment where I would imagine that when the artist is performing it live, people will jump to their seat. That's what's going on in my head every time.
Well, let's talk about Josh Groban, because I love the story there too. He was, I mean, that's so crazy. 17 years old. And tell me if I've got this right. Andrea Bocelli couldn't get to the performance with Celine. And how did you discover Josh again?
Well, the song was called The Prayer, written by my friend Carol Bear-Sager and I, and Tony Reynes, who did the Italian lyrics. And Andrea couldn't make the rehearsal. I need to scramble to find somebody that sounded like Andrea. I called my friend Seth Riggs, the vocal coach. I said, do you have anybody that sounds like Andrea Bocelli? He said, oh, I got 100 people that sound like Andrea Bocelli. I'm thinking, nobody sounds like Andrea Bocelli, but go ahead. He sent me this tape. It was miserable, one after another of these horrible pseudo-Broadway not good singers. The last person on the tape was a little 17-year-old Josh Groban singing this song.
I know what that is. It's from Phantom of the Opera, Say You Love Me.
And I was just like, God, this is incredible. I got to have this kid. And Umberto, who was with me, was the same thing. You got to get this kid to the studio now. His parents drove him to the studio because he was still in high school. I said, you're going to sing with Celine at the rehearsal tomorrow.
Where was he living? Where was he living
in
at
LA
the time?
with his parents. They drove him out in a Ford Explorer. And he said, I can't sing that song. It's too high for me. I'm a baritone. I said, not only can you, but you're gonna. And God bless Celine. She was amazing. Josh's dad filmed it, and we had that footage of when they first met on the rehearsal stage at the Grammys. And she was so wonderful. She held his hand, and he sang his ass off. And it was just the start of a career was born right there.
And I love the backstory of The Prayer because it was kind of a cheesy, not very popular movie, as Carol Bear-Sager talks about. It's kind of a little embarrassing. But from that movie came this extraordinary song that she wrote. And what did you produced it, David? And how does that work? You come up with the instrumentals?
I wrote the music, so this part. Carol wrote the lyrics, and then Tony Reynes did the Italian translation or lyrics. And it was just a little piece called The Mother's Prayer. It was only a minute long for the movie. And somebody, I think it might even have been Tony Reynes, said, you ought to make that a full song. It was Dan Carlin, the music supervisor. And he said, you ought to make that a full song because it's really beautiful. I did. I got a hold of Bocelli. I said, will you sing a duet with Celine Dion? I just cold called him. He had no idea who I was, but he was just breaking. And that voice, that Bocelli voice, makes me crazy. So in my opinion, I have the two greatest singers on the planet, Celine Dion and Andrea Bocelli. We recorded the prayer. And the interesting thing about that song, Katie, and maybe you, because you're so smart, could figure this out, it gets played at weddings and funerals. There's like 4 songs that fit that bill. Ave Maria, Wind Beneath My Wings, the prayer, and there might be one other. How is that possible to fit the worst day of your life and the best day of your life in a song?
Play. I'm sorry, everyone, that my voice is a little delayed. Will you play a little, because you're in front of the piano, of that song for me?
Help me to be strong in times when we don't know. Let this be our when we lose our way. Lead us to a place, guide us with your grace, to a place where we'll be safe. Beautiful lyric by Carol Bear Sager. Beautiful.
It's so beautiful. And what key was that in?
But it was originally in F, but I can't sing anymore, so the lower the better for me.
Okay. All right, before we go, tell everybody a little bit about, I love the Michael Bublé story. Am I still delayed, you guys? I'm so
okay.
sorry, but
we can work with it.
You met Michael Bublé. Okay, good. Thank you, David. Tell us about how you got to know Michael Bublé, because honestly, you thought, oh, who is this wedding singer going to be? And then suddenly you were like, oh my God.
Nothing else mattered except Michael Bublé. You know, Michael in the documentary is really stellar. He's very emotional. As many people know, he's been through a lot in his life in the last 2 or 3 years with his son, who thank God is great now. But it's really turned a really great guy into even a deeper, more emotional and evolved guy. And he's not messing around now. He's just in it, you know, to be the best human being he can. So it really sort of changed him. But he was so emotional in the documentary, and I love him for it. But he was the wedding singer, and it was Brian Mulroney, the Prime Minister of Canada's ex-Prime Minister's daughter's wedding. And Brian Mulroney's going like, "You got to hear this kid sing. You got to hear this kid sing." I was like, with all due respect, Mr. Prime Minister, I just want to enjoy the wedding. He says, "No, come on." And he grabbed my hand, literally grabbed my arm, took me up to the front of the stage, and I watched. And the music starts. And he comes out and he goes, "When the shark bites."
And he sings.
And I'm like, oh my God,
okay.
This guy's incredible. I said, "You're coming with me. You're coming to LA, and we're going to make a record because you fit a slot that Harry Connick used to own. But Harry's not doing that slot anymore. He's acting. He's on Will and Grace. He's married. He's got kids. He doesn't want to do that kind of music anymore. You are going to do it." And guess what? 19 years later, Michael Bublé has had no competition. None.
Well, I would like to say one of my friends is watching, and I think he gives Michael Bublé a little run for his money, and that is Peter Sincotti,
I love Peter.
Who is so sweet. Do you know
Very
Peter?
well. I produced his album, one of his albums.
So Peter's watching.
But
so I think we should say Peter is kind of in that genre,
no,
right?
but I'm going to tell you a story about Peter, a little story about Peter, who I love. He's so talented, great piano player, great singer, great songwriter. Peter decided he didn't want to do that kind of music. That's what I fell in love with, was that he said, "I want to be a pop singer like Billy Joel." And then to his great credit, he went off and that's what he did. And he writes pop songs. So he was no competition for us at all. He could have been, but he didn't want that slot.
He's so cute. I love Peter, and he's such a nice guy, and he has really pretty hair.
Peter, so talented.
So David, before we go, first of all, Barry, how do you pronounce Barry's last name?
Would that be considered a long A? Is that a long
Average? Okay, because I'm going to do it. April. I'm going to be talking to Barry in just a moment because we want to give credit where credit is due. But how did you feel when you watched the whole documentary that has so much more in it than what we discussed tonight? But what was that like for you when you saw it for the first time?
There were some squirmy moments. I've only seen it twice. And one was the first cut, and the second one was the director. So I've only seen it twice. And, sitting in Toronto Film Festival with 2,000 people, and they all, really liked it. It was a great feeling, but there's some cringeworthy moments with my kids and, talking about my personal life. But like I said, I gave them the license to go, and I'm happy with that decision.
By the way, Barry is on. Barry, I'll be with you momentarily in just a second. I may have to go and charge my phone again in my bedroom. But wait, I was going to ask you something, and now I forgot what I was. Oh, somebody keeps asking about Burt Bacharach.
He's my friend. I love him. I think he's amazing. And that's, by the way, when people say, "Oh, David, you've written the soundtrack to my life," bullshit. I haven't. Elton John has. Billy Joel has. Burt Bacharach has. I have not. That's the way I feel.
I don't think that's true. I think you're being modest. But the one story that I didn't talk to you about, and I can talk to Barry about this too, but someone's asking me, I got a shingle shot because I'm 63 and I have to not get shingles. But which was the Chicago story was sort of interesting. I love those Chicago guys. They used to come on the Today Show all the time. And I know you said they're still bitter, but you did kind of screw them over a little,
in a successful way. But I get their anger. And when I was kind of disappointed that they didn't really go at me more, because they certainly could have,
Really? Well, I think that they just felt like you kind of ignored the horns. Couldn't you have put some more horns into those songs with Peter Cetera?
And don't forget, making records is not a democracy. That's how they got into trouble with the 3 records before me, because they all had a say, and it just doesn't work. So when they showed me their 13 songs that they wanted for Chicago 16, I said, guys, these songs suck.
Yeah.
Period. You got to write new songs. And so I wrote with every one of them. I went to all their houses, or most of them, and helped them write and remind them of their greatness. That's what I did, really. If I get any credit at all, it would be for reminding them of their greatness, because they were and are great. And I was a fan.
Yeah, they're so... Well, as I said, I love the let me just tell everyone, someone said you turned that band around. I want to remind everybody where they can watch this documentary, because it's just so enjoyable and so much fun. And, I think the world of you, and it's just really, you've just had an extraordinary life, and it's called David Foster Off the Record. And you can hear from your favorite singers and hear their incredible performances. It's just really fun to watch. Great. So I'm excited to talk to Barry.
He's very articulate.
He's been waiting for a while. He's like, all right.
I'm on Netflix, and that's pretty exciting to me. That's like the first time you get on KISS FM radio. To me, Netflix is like the ultimate. So I'm pretty happy about it. And it's to Barry's great credit that, he was able to make a film that I think will stand the test of time. And who wouldn't want to film about their life? I mean, come on.
Well, he did a great job, and I'm excited. Oh, there's my friend.
Well, we love you, Katie.
Friends who are joining our conversation.
I really do love you, and
all right,
I
so
appreciate
David,
you and value you. And I'll always go back, ending this with the day on the Today Show that I tried to correct you on a word, because you're so much smarter than me, and you used the word harangue, and I said, I don't think that's a word, and you politely said, I think it is. It actually was. I was an idiot, but you've always been so good to me, and I appreciate it. Yes, stick to music. But how do you say the word vulnerable? Do you say vulnerable or vulnerable? Vulnerable. Okay.
Vulnerable.
A lot of people mispronounce that word.
Vulnerable. Vulnerable. You were vulnerable. Are you going to be
Staying
coming to
put.
New York at
So,
any
yeah, this is
point, or
pretty crazy.
staying put?
So
It is so crazy. I can't even believe it. But
it is.
that's a whole nother
I
Instagram
will.
live conversation. Give my love
Okay,
to
and to
Kat. I'm
John
going to
too,
talk
and
to
thank you,
Barry
Katie, for being
in a
so
minute.
generous with your
Lots
time,
of
and
love.
keep up the great work.
Oh my God. You know I love talking to you. So I'll see you later. Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Later. Bye. Okay. I'm coming.